Welcome to the Warley Model Railway Club virtual event, featuring club life, the exhibition and the exhibitors. We hope you enjoy this presentation.
Hi Richard, good morning, welcome to our virtual event. What have you got to show us today?
Right, I've got a few really cool bits and pieces to show you, some of which your viewers will be familiar with, others they won't be. So I'll start because I know we're going to be talking about Zen. So these are our Zen decoders. This is a high power decoder. So this has got up to a 3 amp output, but it's got a small footprint. These are really, really cool. So have a look out for those. We've also, of course, got the 00 decoders. We've got quite a selection of them, depending on whether you're 21 pin or 8 pin or harness or direct. So loads of choice there as well. And of course, we've got the N-gauge decoders, the 6 pin decoders, and we do them with or without a harness as well. So we've covered most gauges. I didn't mention bigger than O, but we can support bigger than O with this guy. And this will put out up to 5 amps. So that'll do the chunkiest of locos for you.
So Richard, I've got the 2 motors ready to start.
Yep.
I've got a decoder. So this is your new Zen Black decoder for the O gauge.
Yep.
With the harness. What's the first thing I need to do?
Okay, so the first thing we need to do is connect the track inputs that you've got from your pickups to the red and black wires on that harness. So that what we need to do first is cut off the 8-pin plug that's on the end of there.
So this part here.
Yeah, so you can cut that off and then that'll give you access to the bare wires.
There you go.
Okay.
So put that to one side. So we've now got a few colour wires, haven't we?
We have. So there's a little mnemonic that I have that you can use if you want. And I'll say red and black go to track, orange and grey the other way. Okay? And that's to help you remember. So what you're going to be using is red, black, orange and grey. The other wires are all for your lighting functions, which we're not going to worry about right now because all we want is motor drive. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So all we want to worry about then is red, black, orange and grey.
Okay, so I've got those separated now.
Perfect. So you have on your locomotive, you've got red and black pickups, haven't you?
I have, yes.
And then they're going to a red and a blue wire. So if you let's look at the bogie that you've got nearest your left hand to start with.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's I'm looking at that one there.
Yeah.
So what we need to do first of all is we need to connect the red wire that's currently going to the motor. Yep. We need to connect that red wire to the red wire on that harness.
Okay, so if I unsolder the red one first to start with. That's easy enough. So that's the red one out the way.
This is where we use the cutting on the video, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's the red wire removed from the motor. So that red wire there, that needs to join onto the red wire on the harness from the decoder. So if you're looking at that harness there, if you just isolate the red wire, and what we need to do is we need to strip a small amount of wire off the end of that so that we can connect it to the red wire that you've just detached from the motor.
Okay. Is it worth me adding a longer wire to this so I can get to both motors? Because I have to do both.
Where do you want the decoder to be? Do you want the decoder to be over one of the bogies or in the centre?
I'm going to put it in the centre of the loco, I think.
So in that case, then the red wire that you've just detached from the motor, let's make that a little bit longer so that we can get into the centre of the loco.
Okay, so I'm just using some DCCconcepts strippers, which make the job very, very simple, very easy to use.
Okay. Put the wire in, pull the handle. There you are. So to join those 2 wires together then, what I would be doing, I would be twisting that wire and then I'd dip that into the bottle of the flux to flux it. And we don't need to worry about the flux staying on the wire because when we touch that with the soldering iron, the majority of it will evaporate anyway, and whatever's left will be inert. So we're fine with that.
Okay, so I've got some.
Okay, so that's now fluxed. And what I do then is I would tin that with the solder so that you've got a tinned end to that wire. And because that's flux, that should be almost instant.
I think I've got the wrong end. It is. Perfect.
And what you'll notice is the flux, because you've dipped the wire in the flux rather than painting it on, you'll notice that the solder's drawn right into the core of the wire rather than just coating the outside of it.
It is. It's pulling right into the... It does make it very, very quick and easy to do.
Yeah, it's just a fraction of a second. You actually feel the solder being drawn off the tip of the iron straight into the inside of the wire. So you need to do the same sort of thing with the red wire that you've got there. So for that, you just need to, again, flux that. Now, if that's attached and you can't dip it, that's not a problem, but it should be possible. If you can't, then you can use a small paintbrush and do that.
Nope, it's done. I've just about managed to get it to it.
This sort of little paintbrush is perfect for that sort of thing.
There you go. Seconds later, it's done.
So now, in theory, you don't need any more solder when you join those two wires together. What you do need, however, is plenty of flux on the joint.
Yep.
So just take the one that you've got in your right hand now and just dip that again in the flux. So that when you join it together, you get plenty of flux on that joint. And then what you'll feel again is you'll feel the solder being drawn into the joint between the two.
You should
now, don't be tempted to pull the wire away.
That's just flowing nicely, that was.
Yeah, but don't be tempted to move the wire until the solder is set. That's it. So move the soldering iron away, keep that steady for a few seconds, and then give that a little test movement and make sure that's secure.
That's perfect. So no problem. So I got the wire done. So
yeah.
I've got a little DCCconcepts soldering iron. So how often would you clean the nib?
I would clean it after each of the soldering jobs that you do, just to keep any solder off there. There's two options for that. One, you can use the flux-infused brass that you've got there, which is a nice brass tip cleaner. And when you dip in there, it'll come out and it'll be shiny and silver like it's a brand new tip. The alternative is when you've got the iron in a stand like that, then quite often they come with a sponge, and you can just clean it on the sponge there. But either way you do it, as long as you end up with a nice clean tip.
There you go. Just to show that I've got it clean. It does work. It does what it says on the tin.
It does indeed. All right, so the next thing we need to do is exactly the same as you've just done, but with effectively the black wire. I notice on your motor that's actually blue, but as long as we know the difference, that's the main thing.
There you go. Again, that's very poorly soldered on.
Mm-hmm.
So
you tend to find that a lot of people, what they'll tend to do is they'll try and solder a joint, and when it doesn't solder because either they don't have enough power in the iron, or the actual joint isn't very clean, is you'll default to saying, "Oh, that didn't work. I'll add more solder."
Yeah.
And each time you add more solder, and you think you're making the joint stronger, but actually you're making it weaker. So you end up with a huge blob of solder that looks unsightly and a joint which doesn't actually work.
Okay, do the same again. Just
twist both ends, tin both ends. It's handy being able to dip it in, isn't it?
It makes life so much easier, because the amount of times I've had bottles of flux go flying across the desk because I'm clumsy, or knock them as you're working.
The worst thing is leaving a paintbrush stuck up in a bottle of flux, and you catch it on the end of your sleeve, and that's it. Everything's everywhere.
And then you spend all day using the flux on the table, trying to make use of it. Okay, so that's sort of give that a bit more. That's better. So we're going to do the same again.
Exactly the same, yeah.
Yeah, I might use the cap, to be fair. There you go. Again, perfect. Nice, easy
Yeah, and you'll find you use, I mean, a lot of people think, oh, the solder comes in a 6-meter reel, and that's not going to last me very long, but you use so little of it if you do it properly.
Absolutely. Well, I've had that since.
Don't forget to flux that first.
Oh yeah.
You mean you can do it without fluxing, but what you'll find is the joint won't be as strong because the solder won't flow as well. Whereas if you flux it, you'll actually see the solder will liquefy and just flow into the joint.
Trying to get your hands around the right way, so hopefully the people can see what I'm doing.
If it doesn't work, then just dip it in the flux again just to make it easier. But you don't need to add more solder.
Yeah, perfect.
Happy with that?
Absolutely, that's spot on again. So again, just a bit of tape around it just to protect you.
Excuse me.
Okay, so we now got the pickups going directly from into the red and the black wire now.
Yep. So that's your track feed, isn't it? So you've got red
That's
and black coming from the track feed.
From the track feed, yeah.
They will then need to now connect to the red and black wires on the decoder. Now, for that, you're going to do exactly the same as you've just done previously.
Okay, so I've got my two black, my red and my black. So
Yep.
if I dip these into the...
This time, we're not actually going to insulate these joints because we need to repeat that, don't we, from the other side. So, yeah.
There's that one. It's that easy, I can do it left-handed.
Right, so if both ends of that wire are tin, then all we need is flux on the joint, and then that should just flow together nicely.
Okay, so again, we're going with the red to red and
Yep.
the black to black.
Correct, yeah.
This is sometimes where if you got a helping hand,
Yeah, this is where you actually need a third hand, isn't it?
For example. And again, just to check, that's nice and same again.
So just put a bit of flux on that wire as well, just to make sure that it's
Got something to bite.
nicely. Yeah, you get a stronger joint then.
Yep.
Again, no need to add any more solder whatsoever to that because you've already tinned both wires. So
yeah, perfect.
all right. So now we've got red to red, black to black. We're going to leave those uninsulated because, of course, we're going to do precisely the same for the other bogey, aren't we?
That's it.
Okay, so if we want to finish off wiring this bogey, then we can take. Then do you remember which terminal the red wire went to on the motor?
The blue one was on this side and the red one was on this side.
Perfect. So what we need to do now is where you can see the orange wire coming out of that harness.
Yeah.
We need to go from the orange wire to the pole on the motor, which was connected to the red wire.
Okay. So if you hang on a sec, I think we've got some orange and grey cable in the club.
That would be perfect because then you've got continuity. Yeah.
So, Ian's just going to get some that. So do you want to do the other side while we're doing?
Yeah, we can do the other side. Yeah. So we can do exactly the same as we've just done.
So if I take the blue off.
Now on that bogey, are the wires already reversed, or do you know what I mean? Or do we
this side is red, this side is blue, this side is black, that side is red.
Perfect. So actually, we can connect the grey and the orange to the same as we've got red and black on that motor then as well. So again, all we need to do is remember which pole was connected to the blue and which pole was connected to the red.
There's the blue one off. Okay, so I've got two of those. So
just tin those two wires, yeah.
Okay.
Lovely. And something about our flux that you might not know, if you look at the bottle, you won't see any warning signs or symbols. That's because the flux is non-toxic. So when you get the smoke come off your joint, you don't need to worry about whether you breathe it in or not. It's not going to do you any harm. There are some quite powerful fluxes out there which are, shall we say, a little less good for you.
Yeah.
That's it. That's not quite.
Not quite. I was a bit too eager taking it away.
Yeah. Just leave it for a few seconds. Just takes the solder a few seconds to cool down because it's 179 degree solder, and of course we're putting what have you got that old soldering iron, 350 or 400?
400.
400. So it's going to take a little bit of time to get down from 400 back down to 179 again.
There you go. So we now got red and black on this side, red and black on this side.
Just a case of joining up the red and black to the red and black on the decoder. So you should end up with the with that harness as a tree in the middle. Yeah.
Yep.
So connect all the red together and insulate that joint. Connect all the black together and insulate that joint.
Okay, so I'm going to before we have chance to get the heat in, as you take the soldering iron, it separates slightly.
Yeah. So if you twist it, then put the flux on, because I think you put the flux on and then twisted it, which might have meant you lost some of the flux. All right, try it now. You should have enough solder in there, I would think.
Oh,
that's better. That's better. I saw the smoke there. That's it. That's got it.
That's perfect. So if I get some insulation on that.
Yep. Then we know that with the red's done then, isn't it?
That's it. The red's put to bed.
Yep.
Okay, so do the same with the black.
That's it. That's not quite.
Not quite. I was a bit too eager taking it away.
Yeah. Just leave it for a few seconds. Just takes the solder a few seconds to cool down because it's 179 degree solder, and of course we're putting what have you got that old soldering iron, 350 or 400?
400.
400. So it's going to take a little bit of time to get down from 400 back down to 179 again.
There you go. So we now got red and black on this side, red and black on this side.
Just a case of joining up the red and black to the red and black on the decoder. So you should end up with the with that harness as a tree in the middle. Yeah.
Yep.
So connect all the red together and insulate that joint. Connect all the black together and insulate that joint.
Okay, so I'm going to put a flux on there. Should be able to bring the two together and just give it a dab, and it should be
good to go. Yeah, because they're both tinned already, aren't they?
Again, I'm struggling with 3 wires.
Yeah. Just paint a bit more flux onto the joint if you want.
Okay.
It'll just help pull the solder into the middle of that joint and hopefully just solidify the whole thing.
They're just separating as you before you have a chance to get the heat in. As you take the soldering on, they just separate slightly.
Yeah. So if you twist it, then put the flux on, because I think you put the flux on and then twisted it, which might have meant you lost some of the flux. All right, try it now. You should have enough solder in there, I would think. That's better. I saw the smoke there. That's it. That's got it.
That's perfect. So if I get some insulation on that.
Yep. Then we know that with the red's done then, isn't it?
That's it. The red's put to bed.
Yep.
Okay, so do the same with the black. They've all come undone again.
Yeah. So just twist them together first.
Yeah.
And then put the flux on after. That's it. So put the flux on now. Okay, then clean the tip of the iron in the brass and then apply it straight onto the joint now. You should see a little puff of smoke if all is well.
Yep.
That's it. That's got it.
And that's the key thing, isn't it? Really, once you get a puff of smoke, you know you've got a good
because
joint.
You know that the flux has evaporated. So when the flux has evaporated, it's pulled the solder into the joint. So you know you've got it. Great. So now we've got red and black on the pickups going to red and black on the decoder input.
Yep.
All good. So
that's good.
Now we need to do exactly the same with the orange and grey.
Okay. So we do 2 oranges first.
Righto. Orange first.
So on my motors, I've got a red mark there and a red mark there.
Yep.
So
we're going to take orange to red on both motors. Yeah.
Okay. So if I tin the end of the wires first. Okay. So again, tin the joints on the motor.
Yeah. Yeah, so now those two oranges, we just need to connect to the orange input or the orange output from the decoder.
Okay.
So we've got red going to orange inside the decoder, and we've got black going to grey. Looks promising.
That is.
Excellent. Right, we can insulate that joint. So that's the orange done.
This tape is getting a bit old. I think it doesn't like. Next time I need to be more prepared and get some heat shrink.
Heat shrink, yeah, yeah. So what we should now have is we should have 3 red wires together, 3 black wires together, 3 orange wires together.
That's it. So we've got the grey to do now.
Which we've got grey, which goes to the other 2 motor terminals.
That looks much better, doesn't it?
Yeah. How's that?
That's took further first time.
There we go. Right, so just insulate that joint. That's basically the wiring. You've got the red and black pickups connected to the red and black input on the decoder. You've got the orange and grey outputs connected to the orange and grey motor connections. So that's the DCC installation complete. And then the only thing remaining is just to plug the decoder into that harness, really.
Okay, and that one goes into the end there.
Yeah, it will only go one way round. So just if you have a quick look in the end of the decoder, you'll see the pins are either high or low. They're not, because obviously you don't want to be able to connect it the wrong way around.
And that just plugs into there.
Yep, it should be a firm friction fit in.
Yeah, that's.
Now all that wire is going to be hidden anyway, isn't it? So
absolutely, it's all going to be. And I need to sort the to have a bit of a tidy up of the wiring before we go into the loco, because all my things keep falling off.
If we did forget which way around those motors were wired, and when you make it go, they pull apart from each other. Then just pop the orange and grey wire going to one of the motors, and it will
and move it and turn it around.
Yeah, that's right.
That's brilliant. So
that should be it.
That's great. So we've turned a DC loco into a DC loco with a bit of wire and a bit of time.
That's right.
In terms of if we were adding lighting, is it fairly easy to add the lights into it?
So on that harness that you've got there, you'll notice that there's a blue wire.
Yeah.
That blue wire is a common positive.
Okay.
So that blue would go to any of the lights that you have on the locomotive. So that would be the positive for any of the lights, so any LEDs, anything like that. Then you've got a yellow and a white wire.
Yeah.
So the yellow and white wire, the yellow is the rear lights and white is the front lights.
Okay.
The white lights. Now that is on function 0 on your controller. So when you press function 0, that's what that turns on. It turns on the white and the yellow output there for your white and your red lights, and they're directional, obviously, yeah? And then you've got the other coloured wires. So you've got, if that's a 6-function decoder, you'll actually have another few colours coming out of there. I think,
got a green.
If I remember rightly, you've got green, you've got pink, and you've got, purple. I should know that, purple, yeah? Thank you.
And a brown.
And a grey one. And a what, sorry? Brown.
A brown, yeah.
Now, those are the other functions. So, for example, if you've got front and rear lights, you can also have a cab number 1 light, a cab number 2 light, an engine bay light. You've used another 3 functions.
Okay.
So you can put LEDs all the way through the loco and have some really nice detail, especially when you've got a loco where you've got windows along the engine bay. A lot of people forget that, you can have a number 1 cab and a number 2 cab light, but it's sometimes nice to have a light actually in the engine bay as well, because locos often ran with the engine bay light turned on. You could see lights in the inside as it went past.
Yeah.
So it's just things like that. But you've got a 6-function decoder there, so you've got plenty you can do with it.
That's brilliant. And you've also got things like high intensity lights. If you got, so like on a 47 where you got high intensity lights as well as your running lights, you got the option to turn different lights on at different times at the front.
You have, and 2 of those functions as well. You'll find out which 2 when you're looking at the instructions for the decoder itself. 4 of the functions are 100 milliamp, which is fine for things like LEDs. There are 2 functions there which are 250 milliamp as well. So you could use that perhaps for a radiator, for the fan on the top or something like that. Because 250 milliamps is enough to feed a small motor or something like that. So you've got quite a lot of versatility on that decoder.
That's great. And how much do you sell these at retail?
So yeah, that loco decoder is £29.95 retail. Full rec retail. Again, shop around, you get different prices with different retailers depending on what deals they've got on at the time. But the full rec retail for that is £29.95, which for an O gauge decoder is actually very, very good.
That's very good because you can pay a lot more than that.
You can.
What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get this home, get it onto my ECOS,
Yeah.
and I'll do the next bit of video, hopefully with it working and pulling in, going in the same direction.
Yeah, that will be good.
Otherwise, you might get another phone call.
There's two things which may happen on this. One is that both motors go in opposite directions, in which case you swap the orange and grey over. Yeah, and the second is if you put it on the track and you get a dead short, it means that the colour wire that was on those bogies isn't what it may have appeared, because we've connected black to black, red to red.
Yeah.
If one of those bogies under DC was actually reversed, then it could be a case that we have to swap the red and black over from one of the bogies. So one or two things. One is the motor's pulling opposite directions. Swap one of the orange and greys around. If you get a dead short when you put it on the track, then swap one of the red and blacks around. So that's what can happen there.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Richard. Simon couldn't come and visit you in Settle.
Well, looking forward to it again soon.
Absolutely, and hopefully see you in 21 show. And
I'm looking forward to being there. We've really missed Warley this year. We had a really good show last year. That was the first one we had our big stand at, and we got a lot of people noticed us, shall we say. So we got a lot of good feedback from that show. And I was really looking forward to Warley 20 because we were actually going to bring an even bigger stand with more on it. We've even got plans for another layout to show on the stand, which would have shown off automatic train reversing and all sorts of exciting things. But we'll have to wait to 2021 for that.
That's brilliant. And hopefully you're going to be available for a live Q&A quickly afterwards?
Yeah, when would that be? Oh,
straight after this video.
Straight after this video, yeah, no problem at all. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So if you're watching, check out the YouTube and Facebook page, and we'll hopefully have Richard available to answer a few questions. So thanks for that, Richard, and we'll see you in a moment.
No problem. See you now.
Cheers.
Thank you for watching this Warley virtual event presentation. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe. We hope to see you when we are back at the NEC on the 27th and 28th of November 2021.